Hi y'all, it's Becky Raisler, and I'm with Becky's Junk Journals on Instagram. Well, I used to be on Instagram and Facebook, but now I am just on YouTube because I'm fighting with my Facebook and Instagram accounts. I have been hacked, y'all. Today I'm going to show you how I make two different kinds of fabric journal covers. I'm going to show you an easy, quick way to make a small cover like this one. This one is 7 3/4 inch tall and 5 inches wide here, and the spine is 1 3/4. And didn't that turn out pretty, front and back on that cover? This is the fabric that I saved from that vintage curtain that I bought at the thrift store for $1.50, and I'm still working on I'm going to make 3 journal covers out of this fabric and I'm going to do 3 different kinds of covers and 3 different sizes, just because that's the type of cardboard I happen to have right now. Usually I use kitchen food product cardboard packaging and to make these journal covers, and this one was real simple. Didn't take me very long to make it at all. The next one I'm going to show you, well, this is how I made, beginning of how I made this one. First thing I did was I cut out my cardboard. In this case, I'm using a Betty Crocker cake mix box, and I cut it down to size. And on this cover here, I did not detach the spine. I left the spine attached when I glued it to the fabric. So this one is going to be just like this, made just like this. And the way I get started, I cut my fabric to size that I want, and I give myself about 1 inch space on all the 4 sides, and I decide where I want it placed on the fabric. And in this case, I decided I was going to do it like this, and so this will be the front and that'll be the back, and I think that'll make a pretty journal. The next thing I do once I've got my fabric covered is I glue down and I put the colored side to the inside of this, and I use Fabri-Tac glue to make these journal covers, and that's all I've used is Fabri-Tac glue throughout this whole thing when I'm working with fabric. If I was working with paper, I would use something different, but the first thing I do is glue this down, and literally I just turn it over, load it down with glue, and like that all over and around, good around the edges. Same thing in the spine, and then go around the edges real good, and then twirl, 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 twirl. I don't bother with spreading it out thin or smooth or anything like that. I just twirl it so it's all covered, and then I glue it down to the center like that. And once I've got it glued down, I will cut off these corners right there to make a slant, to make it easier to fold up. While I'm cutting the fabric, I also cut myself a piece of this. I'm using the same fabric. I could use something different, but I'm using the same fabric, since this particular fabric I'm using is got a rubberized backing to it, and it makes it flexible. And so the next thing I'll do is I'll glue this down, and then I will glue the edges up. So that's this one that I've got planned out, and it's important to plan them out before you start cutting and gluing. And the next type of journal cover that I'm going to make is what I call the standard hardback journal, where it takes much more fabric. Isn't that pretty on that carton? Now what I have done is these are much larger. These are 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall. So 6 inches wide, 8 inches tall, and these are from cereal boxes. So I am going to, I've got them cut out, and I've got decided where I'm going to put it, and then I'm going to line it up. Then I'm going to separate the spine on this one. I'm going to have to make my own spine. So I've taken the ends of the cereal box, 2 of them, since they're come, you know, the same width. So, and I'm going to glue these 2 together to have a reinforced spine on this one. So the spine will be reinforced, and then when I get ready to glue, I will glue the spine down first, and then I will glue my front and back cover down with just a little bit of space between them, like that. So it'll be, and that's the way I do the larger ones. I also will reinforce the inside of the spine with some, oh, I forget what those bags they make that are just about, you can't tear them. I forget what the name of it is, but I've got some heavy duty, you can use a heavy duty fabric or paper or cardstock or any number of things to reinforce the spine, so you have something that holds it together where it separates. So this is how I do a larger one. I'm going to do all the gluing down now, and then I will show you how I go from here. Okay? Be right back. Alrighty, now I've done some gluing. I've got the fabric cut down to size and trimmed with about 1 inch border. I've got it glued onto the fabric with Fabri-Tac glue, and this is the one that the cardboard is continuous, so I trimmed off the corners this way to have less bulk when you fold in the corners, and I cut some slits, not all the way up to the cardboard, but 1/8 of an inch or so before you get to the cardboard. And I've cut those slits about 1/8 of an inch in. And that is just so it will be easier for the fabric to fold up when I glue it up. The next thing I'm going to do on this one is, since I am not, this is how I'm going to cover the spine. I'm going to glue this down like that, and that's about 1/2 inch to 1 inch beyond where the creases of the spine are. And then I will glue my sides over like this. Alternatively, I could glue that in first and then lay that on top of it. I think I'll do that. I think I'll glue it in first. I'm going to glue the outside edges, then I'll glue this down, and then I will take my side covers, which I already have made, and I will glue it down on top of it like that. And that's all there is to it. So all I did was cut some cardstock to measure to fit just inside that spine there, inside the cover, and I rounded the edges and inked the edges. Okay, so I'm going to glue the outsides of that one next, and then I will show you what it looks like before I glue down the sides so you get to see what it looks like. On this one, I made a couple of mistakes. I forgot to glue my cardboard with the colored side down on this one. Also, when I was cutting out my fabric cover for the spine, I slit part of this. And so what I did, and you can't really see it, what I did was I took some Tyvek, and Tyvek is, you could buy it online, it's kind of expensive. Tyvek is what party mail envelopes are made out of in the United States. And it's a fabric that will not tear. I mean, it will not tear. It's sort of plastic coated on the inside and paper on the outside. But it's fabric paper. And so I used some Tyvek, just a little piece of Tyvek over that to patch that. And then I glued down my spine first. And what I did was I took a pencil and marked where I wanted my spine on the fabric. And I did not cut the corners until after I had glued everything down. But I just laid it out on the fabric like I wanted it, where it was going to give me enough edges. And then I drew a line where I wanted the spine, and I glued the spine down first. Then I glued this piece down, leaving some space in between, and that'll be where it turns, like that. And because that is just fabric in that empty space, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to reinforce this spine, and I'm going to take a piece of Tyvek from that party mail envelope I had and glue it down right there with Fabri-Tac. Oh, I meant to tell you, this is doubled up. This is 2 pieces of cardboard right here on the spine, back to back. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue that down to reinforce that spine. And then I will put my inside covers down, and I'll make that splotchy on the bottom because I'll probably have a pocket there. Same on this side. Splotchy goes on the bottom. And then I'll take my fabric to cover everything up, like that. And that'll be the inside of this one. Okay, well, I'm going to glue around the outside edges of both of these, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, the glue fairies have been at work, and now I'll show you where the next step is. So far, we have cut the cardboard to size for the spine in the front and the back. We've cut the fabric 1 to 1.5 inch larger all the way around. And now we've glued the cardboard down. And then we cut the slant in the fabric corners and the slits at the spine. Then we glued the edges all the way around this way. And on this one, I glued the reinforcement fabric down. And this is the one where the cardboard was continuous across. And I decided to use this fabric and to reinforce it for the smaller of the journals. Or I guess this is the larger of the journals. I was wrong, sorry. This is the one with the separate spine, and then the 2 larger front and back that were glued up next to it. So I used this as a reinforcement rather than Tyvek, because this is heavier than Tyvek. On this one, I did all the same procedures, except for my reinforcement of my spine. I did use a piece of the Tyvek paper fabric to reinforce it. And to tell you the truth, I meant to put this Tyvek on here and this one on here. Things, you know, it'd be a lot easier if I would just do this one at a time instead of trying to do 2 at a time, wouldn't it? Okay, so now you've seen where we are. We're all cut up to there. And the next step, after I've got my reinforcement down and I've got the fabric all done, my next step is I'm going to, on this one, I cut another piece of fabric to go over the spine there. I'm going to glue that down, and then I'll have the front page or the back page, back cover front, and the front cover front, and that's the way it'll look like when I glue it all down on that one. And it will open up like that and be all fine. So we'll glue this one together and I'll show you what it looks like. And on this one, same thing, except for this time I'm going to do just a little bit different. On the front, I've already got this spine like that, and I could, if I wanted to, just glue this down on top of there and leave that like it is. But I think, you know, decisions. Yeah. I think that this doesn't overlap enough. So I think what I'm going to do is put that down there and this down there, and then I'm going to use this piece of fabric to go over it on top instead of underneath. And that'll give it extra reinforcement on this one. I really should iron this fabric, shouldn't I? If I'm going to do that. Oh well, okay. I'm going to take care of those things, put them back together, and then we'll talk about how I will finish off these two covers. Okay, we've got everything put together now, and I'll show you how it's going to work. This is the original cover that I made. And the only thing I've done since you last saw was I added the grommet, what do they call those? I can never remember. But anyway, I punched a hole in it with my crocodile big bite on either side for my closure. This is my favorite closure, and what I do is I take some ribbon, color coordinated ribbon, and I wrap it around and poke it through those holes for a bow tie closure. And that's my favorite closure. What I'll do is put a nameplate across here with journal or something on it, most likely a small one, so I don't take up a lot of the fabric, because I thought that really turned out pretty with that vintage vintage curtain that I made. While I'm at it, I wanted to tell you that I've already sized my pages for each of these, for this particular journal cover. I always make the cover first, and then I make my signatures to go inside. And I do this so I can coordinate my papers that I put into it with the look of the cover. So this will make a great botanical journal, I think. And the pages size that I decided to go for will be 7 1/4, which is a 1/2 inch shorter. That'll leave me a 1/4 inch at the top and a 1/4 inch at the bottom in case there's any, give a little bit of wiggle room on the pages. My original size here of my back of my cover is 5 inches, and I'm going to make my pages 4 1/2 inches wide here. So doubled, that'll be 9 inches. My pages will be 9 by 7 1/4, and that I leave that 1/2 inch because as you stack more papers together, it tends to bulge out, and it can bulge out quite a bit depending on how many papers you put in there. So I'll leave a 1/2 inch. Also, I like to put lace and different types of trim along the edge of my papers, So that 1/2 inch is usually, if I'm doing a larger journal, I'll leave 1 inch or at least 3/4 of an inch, so I can put some real big trim along the edges, because I really like that look. In this case, I decided instead of a button closure that I would use the tie closure. So I've got my holes. I've decided that this journal cover is busy enough and I'm not going to put a tassel. That if I was going to put a tassel, I would punch my hole now and set a grommet in it, because it's too hard to do once you get everything put together and sewn in. So if you're going to have a tassel, you need to make the place for the tassel before you sew in your signatures. Okay, let me show you what the other ones turned out. This is the smaller one of the two, and I put a copper colored grommet in that one. And this is a smaller spine, so it'll have fewer pages in it and less decoration. Everything is not perfect and perfectly square, and that's okay. I don't worry about that because it's handmade, and that just gives it some extra character. If I wasn't perfect, nobody's perfect. So the journals that I make aren't perfect either. I decided on this one to go ahead and just leave the fabric on the inside and cover the outside, and I like the way that looks. The next thing I'll do is come along here, and this one I think I'll put this lighter color blue ribbon for the bow tie on it. The next thing I'll do, here's one that I finished out the inside of the cover, and I got my fabric down to cover the spine. I glued my two inside covers down, and this one I picked a pocket and a belly band to go on the inside of the covers, and they cover up that little smudges that I have down here on the original cardstock. So I got my pocket here, and I made these pockets with the same material that the fabric is. I have a tutorial that it's the one before this one that I posted a few days ago, showing you how I did all these embellishments and pockets and everything from a vintage curtain that I bought real cheap at my local thrift store. So I hope this gives you some ideas, the way that it's going to look. When I finish these journals, when I finish putting them together, I will do a full flip through. So be sure and hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell, since I'm having trouble with Facebook and Instagram, and I'm currently not on Facebook or Instagram right now. Be sure and subscribe, and be sure and hit the notifications bell so you'll know when the new ones come in. Hit the thumbs up button for this video, and it makes me so happy. And please make comments. I'm so lonesome not having any contact with anyone whatsoever who understands the junk journaling thing that I'm doing. Nobody in my family or friends gets it, so I know you guys do. So leave me a comment, let me know you're out there. Thanks a whole bunch. Bye-bye.